Next we have Jen Cohn, the voice of Farah.
Our girl! My girl! Did she cancel?
Right.
I love you! Will you marry me? A good being!
Next we have Chris Parson, the voice of Junkrat.
My good beings!
And last but not least, we have Chloe Hollins with voice of Widowmaker. Awesome.
I'm gay.
We're gonna have about 20 minutes of questions and 20 to 30 minutes of questions, and then 30 minutes of questions from you guys, the fans. So let's go ahead and jump in. Let's start talking about everybody's journey to get into the Overwatch voice booth. There. You want to?
Hi everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. It's sort of noisy in this room, but scream at me if you can. I had an interesting start as Winston. I probably was one of the earliest people to work on the project because the first thing I believe they pulled us in to do as voice actors was the original cinematic trailer, which is the first thing that Blizzard officially released. And so when I auditioned for Winston and came in, I would ask them all sorts of questions about the game, and a lot of times their answer was, we're not sure yet, because they were still sort of in development, they were still sort of figuring it out. And that was one of the cool things about the process, was that we would sort of feed off of each other. They would sort of suggest something, and I'd try it, and that would give them an idea, which would give me an idea, which would give them an idea, and so we'd sort of bounce off of each other until we found a sort of center for Winston. And back then, we were working under a code name, so I didn't even know what the game was called. And so I didn't even know when it was going to be released, and it was one of the BlizzCons for Warlords of Draenor, because I also played the voice of Vindicator Maraud in World of Warcraft. And I was there promoting World of Warcraft, and I'm backstage, and on this little screen, which showed what was happening on the big screen, this film started playing, and it looked like a Pixar film. You know, it was all bright and shiny, and Blizzard stuff tends to be sort of dark and serious. And so here was this bright, shiny film, and I'm like, wow, that's interesting, what's that? And then this gorilla comes on the screen, and I'm like, oh, it's a gorilla. Wait, I play a gorilla. Wait, what is this? Overclock? Overdrive? What? I don't know what it's called. And so it was sort of, when I saw that trailer, that's what really sort of crystallized for me. I was like, oh, that's the world we're in now. And we were sort of off to the races from there.
My babe.
I love that answer. That was so good. So wait, was the question about my start with this game?
Yes.
So I had done voices for World of Warcraft, and one day my agent called me that I had an audition for a game that was then codenamed Prometheus, and Farah did not have Farah's name, she had a different name. And the description of the character, which is she was very aggressive and she was very macho and she was a shooter and all this, I thought she was a villain. So I did this very dastardly, villainous audition for Farah and sent it in. And as is customary when you're a voice actor, you immediately forget about your audition as soon as you've done it because you don't like hang on to it. So I sent it in and never thought about it again, gone. 6 months later, I get a call from my agents that I have a session for a game called Overwatch for a character named Farah, and that the session is on my birthday. And so I was like, nice, my birthday. But I said, but wait, I never auditioned for Overwatch. I never auditioned for Farah. They made a mistake. There must be another Jen Cohn who's a voice actor in Los Angeles, and they mixed us up because I didn't audition for this. And she assured me it was me. But I went into the session, and the first thing I said, as soon as I had my headphones on and was talking to Jeff Kaplan and Michael Chu and Andrea Toyas, was, guys, you got the wrong Jen Cohn. It's not me. I didn't audition for this. And they all started laughing and said, no, it's you. And they played me villain Farah. And I went,
feeling
And then they
Farah.
explained to me that Farah was the Captain America of the game, and that was the direction we should go. And that was on my birthday almost 4 years ago, and that was the session where we found Farah's voice.
I'm so proud of her.
About 3 years ago, I was asked.
Okay.
About 3 or 4, I don't remember. Years ago, I was asked to be in the audition. I know that's a project about a Blizzard, a new game, a shooting game, and they want me to speak English. They want the Chinese accent, but speak English. I mean, I was like, why me? They say, oh, you have a master's degree. You must know how to speak English. So that was why I was in that audition. They told me that she was a scientist, and I studied chemical technology in college. So maybe that's why. The second reason maybe. And she was kind of cute and shy, and she is from China, from Xi'an, so she has the Chinese accent. So they think that's perfect for me, but I'm not that confident. In that audition, they asked me to read a paragraph of in English, and those sentences are quite simple for me, so I passed that audition. And after 1 month or 2 months, there was a callback, and after that, I was told that I am that character. So that's really amazing. I know that will be a big thing. I mean, Blizzard game and Chinese character, and I'm the English version, so wow, that's so big. I think I'm really lucky. They built a character that is so similar to me, so I don't need to change my voice a lot. I don't need to push myself that much. It's just to speak English in Chinese accent, but that's kind of difficult for me. Thank you, Blizzard. Yeah, that's how. Thank you.
A shy bee.
For me, it was a breakdown. They just put out a breakdown saying, well, we're looking for this like underweight Australian who's like a crystal meth addict, or may or may not be a crystal meth addict. I'll just rephrase that. Let's paint Blizzard in a more positive light. So I lived in Australia, but as for the other characteristics, I couldn't relate to them, but I felt connected to them, in terms of a guy that loses his cool and explodes and the whole thing. And I mean, I had done some voices for Blizzard before in a few of the World of Warcraft entries. So as far as I know, it was just one read, and then I was there, and, oh, you're doing this game, and I thought, oh, okay. I thought at the time it was just going to be another game, but, clearly I was right.
Hey!
So the lucky thing for me was that I live in Paris, in France. I'm a voice actor over there, but the industry in Paris, France, is very different than it may be in LA. So basically, Blizzard is an unknown thing. I mean, I knew of games that were made by Blizzard, but I mean, I never auditioned for them. It was something that I could really reach out for. So it wasn't even like a dream. It wasn't like on my wish list. It was practically non-existent. And when I got to audition, I didn't even realize how big a phenomenon this game was going to be. The only reason I auditioned was because Blizzard had started to, they were probably pretty close to the opening of the game. And they had sent what they had, the beta version, and probably the 2 first shorts, to a dubbing studio in Paris. And they were supposed to get the whole game and every character dubbed into French. And when they listened to Widowmaker, who is French, they realized that the actress who had been chosen in LA was, I believe she's very, very good. I have heard her. But there was just this little tiny thing where they thought, this girl isn't really French, and maybe we can find a real French person over here. So they suggested that to Blizzard. And so suddenly this tiny little dubbing studio in Paris is like, oh, we can work for Blizzard now, and we get to show them what we can do. So they put a lot of care into like finding bilingual actresses, and because I speak both languages, I just got to do that audition. The first thing I auditioned for was the cinematic, the live film, and I don't know, I think I was just very relaxed, much more than I would have been if I had actually known what was about to happen. So yeah, I guess that was it.
Wow, So with all of that, after about like 2 years, what's the moment that made you realize Overwatch was a lot bigger than you thought this would be?
I think for me, I realized how big it was the first time I went to a convention, and like over half the things I was signing was Overwatch. Right? Because I've been working as a voice actor now for basically 20 years. And I have plenty of anime and other game credits, and people will come up, and there's certain things that I'm known for, that people like me for, and that's great. But when Winston sort of crowded out every other character when I was signing autographs, I was like, oh, I think people like this game. It's a thing now.
There were a series of things, but the notable things were I kept on. So I also do fashion consulting and branding and style trend scouting, and so I operate under the name Fashion Dilettante under that. And I started getting all these requests about Farah through Fashion Dilettante. And I was like, wait, what is going on? Hold on, because this has never happened before. And then suddenly my agent gets a letter from someone in England who wants a signed poster for their daughter, and I had no idea there was a poster to sign. I knew nothing. And then suddenly somebody wanted a Funko Pop, and I'm like, wait, Farah has a Funko Pop? Like, I had no idea. And the biggest one was BlizzCon. Because I showed up at BlizzCon totally unprepared, completely unprepared, and my brain just exploded. Like I did not realize what had happened, what had evolved. You know, I've done other games and big games, and the miracle of what's happened with this game and with this voice cast has never happened to me before. So it's been just very exciting.
Okay, I've done Hearts of Stone, Heroes of Storm, and World of Warcraft. Is that right? I've done these games in Chinese version in China before, so I know Blizzard is a big thing in China. So, and I'm in the English version. I'm the Chinese hero, so I knew that would be a big thing. But it was not supposed to be so big. After the game is released, I've got more and more followers on the social media, and I was invited to cons in China, and then I was invited to BlizzCon, yeah, the same Jen, and that was so big, too big for me. Thank you.
I think the first time I noticed that the game might have some impact was more and more as I'm at the airport, I'm noticing 13 or 14-year-old kids with phones, looking at their phones, then looking at me, then looking at their phones, and looking at me. And it's like, yeah, I think that's around the time when I realized that things are changing slightly.
Yeah, my answer is going to be very close to Jen's answer, actually. I was on Twitter for a while, and I was battling with like 23 followers who would become 25 followers, and then there's this stage at the beginning when suddenly you lose 3 followers, and you're like, why? And I didn't get this Twitter thing. And at some point, I was just like getting followers and people telling me that they loved me. And I had never met them before, and I was like, what is happening? So that was step number one. And then step number two was obviously BlizzCon. That's when I was like afraid. But
Afraid.
afraid. To add on to what Chris said, I had a Thanksgiving before I was invited to BlizzCon, where I suddenly, like, all the 13-year-old, the bar mitzvah boys in the room, all like started whispering and huddling up, and then just kind of sidling up to me, being like, "You're not really Farrell. You're not really Farrell." And then they made me take pictures, and then they made me do lines for them, and their parents were all completely freaking out and saying, "What is going on, James?" And that was a good one too.
If only I could
That's
be
amazing.
lucky.
So, in each of your opinions, what is the most underappreciated aspect of Overwatch that you wish was appreciated more?
Huh.
Is there anything that's underappreciated about Overwatch? I feel like the enthusiasm
butts
for the
are
game is sort of
good.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
The payload?
Maybe. Well, I would say if it's just like what I can see from this side of where we are is how much the voice actors are like in the light. I'd say I always try to remind people how we would be nothing if there wasn't this huge, immense team of people who do an extraordinary job on every aspect of the game. I guess that's what we talk the less about, and we would be nothing without them. So, yeah.
I can't agree more.
Me too.
Yeah, we as actors tend to be sort of the front line. It's usually how you relate to the character based on how it's drawn visually and how they sound. And while it's hard the visual design and movement of the character is done by a team. And so it's hard to sort of pinpoint. It's easy. We all become a flag for the character, right? We're sort of the standard bearer of the character, so it's easier to relate to us directly. But we are just sort of the tip of the spear. There's this whole team behind us that makes this. And as much as I love Winston wouldn't work if the whole world of Overwatch didn't exist. And I didn't make that, right? There's like a whole crew of people at Blizzard who made that, and I'm so grateful to them for having made that.
I love that. The other person that I want to mention is our casting director and voice director, Andrea Toyas, who cast us all. Who really is a visionary and really knows, like, has a real sense of character. I mean, there are a lot of very good voice actors, and considering that they look for people all over the world for each of these characters, but she is able to sort of laser focus and pinpoint and found each person to play each character, and I think that the job she did was extraordinary. So, her too.
Animators. When I was first time I was doing the animated thing in America, and all I saw is storyboard, the pictures that they don't move. And I know the first time I see the cinematic, it was like, wow, all these motions, all the face, the expression, everything is so magic. And I know that they will do days, they will work on that for days for just one motion, maybe like this, and that will take them like days of work. So I really love them.
Just to add to what Crispin said, if there's one, if the people that are underappreciated in this one are, it's the technical people, all the people that do all of the, well, I was going to say all of the effects, but it's all an effect because it's all a video game. I used to work in digital effects, albeit briefly, before I got started in voiceover, and I would look through spreadsheets of on movies of who was who and what was what, and it's just, it's a phone book of people that it takes to create everything. So yeah, just to add to what Crispin said, it's really the technical people that really make us, I think, shine in the end.
Okay. All right. I think it is just about time for fan questions now.
Oh, good. We get to ask them questions?
We have our two runners. Raise your hands. There we go. Spotlights on them. If you will, go ahead and line up behind the mic. And as a request, it's not.
You're like my anxiety, I can't.
Okay.
Make sure to speak loudly and clearly because it is noisy in here and it can be challenging for us to hear.
Hi. Do any of y'all play the game, and if so, what character do you like to play in the game?
So I have played. I cannot say that I play like on a daily basis, but I have played, and actually I played with Keith Silverstein, who was doing Junkrat and trying to teach me. But I don't know if he failed or if I failed, but it went terribly wrong. He was jumping on my head more so than anything else.
If you know the actor Ray Chase, he's one of my castmates in Final Fantasy 15, and we were at something, and he said, "Chris, why don't you play Overwatch? You've never played it before." So I played, and in about 5 or 6 seconds, I was like, I suck at this so bad. So I just gently handed him the controller and said, I'm just going to stick to doing the voices. I'll let the Overwatch masters out here Overwatch their way into Overwatchness. Just stick to the recording studio.
At first I played as Mei in Overwatch, but I keep dying, and all my teammates are trying to save me all the time. Nobody was around payload. Nobody was around the payload. Everybody was trying to save me. And then I play Junkrat because I don't come too close to the enemies. I can stay really far and just roll, explode. But Junkrat really, he can die really easily. With no protection, die really easily.
No freezing, no.
Yeah, it just and then that is Junkrat. And I like to do Junkrat voice lines while I play in Overwatch, but I can't do that now. Yeah, we're not allowed to do that, right? Yeah, I think so.
I am hand-eye coordination challenged. I am a bad driver. So I have tried to play twice as Farah, and it was a absolutely dismal failure. I am a really bad Overwatch player. Really bad.
I'm sure I'm worse.
So, some of you may be familiar with the fact that Matthew Mercer and I decided to get on Twitch and play Overwatch together. Where he would play as McCree and I would play as Winston. Now, I have played games in the past, I'm not that big of a gamer, but we had to play as our characters because that was the joke. We were going to do the voices of the characters on the voice chat while we were playing. Little problem, Winston is a disruptive tank, which means that you have to have two things down pat. You have to be able to control his motion very well, you have to have the sort of keyboard coordination, which I don't have because I'm rusty, it's been a while since I played AWSD games. And secondly, you have to know the map, so you know where you're jumping into and where you're jumping out of. I don't know these maps yet, so I'm getting my butt handed to me in this game because I'm clueless. Meanwhile, Matt's like at a distance going, I knew, and I'm like, screw you, dude. Screw you. And then at one point, he switched to Farah, and I was like, that's cheating. You gotta stick with McCree, buddy boy. And so we stayed and we played. My computer was so old, I'm a Macintosh guy, so I didn't have a PC to play it on. And I finally got a new computer. I got like an iMac Pro, and so I have to build a Windows Boot Camp partition on it so I can actually play Overwatch. So hopefully, in the next few months, I'll actually start playing Overwatch for real.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, good. Okay, so hey, I just want to ask something to Chris Parson over there.
Yeah.
So Chris, what are the two things that solve every problem?
The two things that solve every problem: Junkrat and Gladio.
I was looking for money and explosives, but that's a good answer too.
Thank you.
Well, what got you guys into voice acting? Why did you guys decide to do that?
Because it's the most fun.
I mean,
I actually have an entire podcast about that where I talk about in great gory detail how I broke into the industry and why I'm into it. It's called Voice Acting Mastery. It's at voiceactingmastery.com, and you can look it up in the iTunes store, and you can go to crispinfreeman.com, and there's a link that says go to Voice Acting Mastery. But basically, I had a passion for animation, and I wanted to be involved. Specifically, I had a passion for Japanese animation. And my passion for that and wanting to contribute to that art form meant that I was going to be a voice actor because I can't draw. So I wasn't going to be an animator, and so my way to contribute to the artwork was as a voice actor, and then that sort of snowballed into games and American animation and everything else.
I started as a stage and film actress, and because I have never in my life been an ingenue, I always had character roles. And so when I started out, I was doing terrible off Broadway theater.
I worked there.
Yeah, you were there. Yeah, I saw you there. I know. I kept on getting stopped by producers telling me that my voice was great. Did I want to do voiceovers? And in fact, a company that's here in Atlanta was my first ad campaign, Rooms to Go. I was the voice of Rooms to Go. That was like one of my first gigs. But it's so funny. But yeah, so I liked it, and it was great, and it was fun.
Fireworks
It
at
didn't
Rooms to
matter if I was schnozzy or if I needed to lose 5 pounds or if I was dark. Like, it was a fun, cool thing to pursue. And I got a terrible agent, and then a less terrible agent, and then an okay agent, then a good one, and a great one, and then my career took off. So it was good.
As I mentioned, I studied chemical technology in college, and I'm really bad at doing experiments. So it's kind of dangerous for me to stay in the lab. And I like voice acting from when I was really young, like 12 or 13 years old, like that. So I think it would be much safer and funnier to be a voice actor than scientist. Yeah. So I took a training course in voice acting, and I know my mentor, she thought maybe I have some potential, so she gave me a lot of opportunities. I got a lot of roles that I like, and that's how I decided to be a voice actor. Thank you.
Well, after I graduated from film school, I kicked around for a few years and nothing really seemed to work out. And as I mentioned before, I was working at a digital effects company, and one day the axe just fell and I was out of work. So I was collecting unemployment for the next 8 or 9 months. And one day I looked on Craigslist and there was somebody who said, do you do celebrity impressions? I said, a little bit. And I went, I flew back, I was hanging out in Houston, and I flew back to Los Angeles and met with this guy, and it turned out to be like a little hole-in-the-wall agency, kind of like one of your starter talent agency kind of thing. But I started booking little things here and there, and it's snowballed. I mean, there's a lot of little details I'm leaving out, but there you go, there's the Cliff's Notes version.
I started as a child. I was, because I spoke English as a kid in a French country, well, I mean in a French-speaking country, sorry. I was doing English learning methods. And so that required me to learn how to do all these different voices and everything. And I was just doing it as a hobby in a way, just a thing that I like to do. I was earning a little money. It was fun. It was great. I liked it. When I decided to become an actor and do like on stage and on camera work, it seemed very natural to continue. And then little by little, I just explored more and more of that. I will say that what I do like about voice work is that what I did like was that I got to do everything that was expected of me on stage or on camera, but no one could see me. So I found it very liberating, and still do. It can be very physical. You are not like, the way you look and what you are is not an obstacle. So you can go like be a child, you can be a monster, you can be an animal, you can be whatever, and I really, really like that.
Hello. I wanted to know who in the voice acting community inspired you as a voice actor?
Is the question who inspired you as a voice actor?
Kristen Freeman.
No, me specifically?
No.
Everyone.
I have to say that I was never a person who followed voice actors. That wasn't a thing for me. What I followed was stories and characters. So it was much more that I would find myself attached to certain animated shows and be fascinated with the character. And it wasn't until after I became a professional voice actor that I even bothered to look up who they were. But for instance, one of the animated shows that really was a part of my childhood was the Rankin Bass animated version of The Hobbit. And when you watch that, there's some really great voices in that. One of them that stands out to me is Brother Theodore playing Gollum. I mean, Andy Serkis is a fabulous Gollum in the live-action films, but Brother Theodore's Gollum in the animated film is terrifying. There is a manic viciousness to him that gave me nightmares as a child, and for some reason I love that. I don't know what that was about, right? So what I do is I go back and I look at those people and I say, isn't that amazing? Now that I'm a professional, I can look at my fellow colleagues or colleagues that came before me and admire them. You know, I can admire Frank Welker, or I can admire Jude Foray and these people who do these amazing voices, but that wasn't something that I didn't say, oh my God, I want to be Mel Blanc, right? That was never, because there are voice actors like that. There are friends of mine who were like that. That was not my thing. My thing was, I want to work on these stories. Oh, that person did that, and they did that too, and they did that too. Wow, they're really good. I need to get as good as them. But it wasn't like I was following a voice actor I admired, and that was what was inspiring me. It was always the stories and the characters first.
That was such a good answer. Wow. The one that I always knew about growing up was Mel Blanc. Mel Blanc was so extraordinary. He voiced everything. He voiced every voice of everything I watched on Saturday mornings. It was crazy. So he was the person that I had the most awareness of, and the idea that it was a job to do all of these crazy voices, and I did all these crazy voices when I was playing on